Hello, welcome. My name is Maria Bavir. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm wearing a yellow, brilliant yellow, National PTA t-shirt that says Advocacy, Legacy, Impact, 125 years. I have shoulder-length brown hair and green eyes. My background is a wooden door, part of my house where I'm volunteering from today for Minnesota PTA. And I'm here with Vang, my co-worker, I guess, co-volunteer in the grant writing. So I'd like to invite her to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Vang Song Skibby. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I use she, her pronouns, and I am wearing a brown sweater with a floral blouse. I have dark hair and dark colored eyes, and my background is my office space in my home, and I have some of my children's artwork in the background.
Thank you so much for coming to our online information session today about how your local PTA could receive funding for a PTA program during the 2023-2024 school year. Next slide, please. So you can apply for a grant from National PTA today. Do you see how it rhymes? And I have that in there because the date to apply by is next week, Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. And so I want you to start moving on this process today. And you can see that we have a bounce house there and some books. My PTA applied for a grant, and then we were able to use some of the funds for the fun bit of a bounce house and also purchasing social emotional learning books for the classroom libraries. And there's a cute picture of my child reading one of those books as well, but not on this slide. Next. So who can apply? PTAs that are in good standing, and you can check with Minnesota PTA, and they're actually on this call tonight, so you can email them. There's more information in the next slides about that. And why would you get this money? It would be because it's a national PTA program that you'd be running, so they provide a lot of the supports that you would need for running a program. And also there's $600,000 available to 500 PTAs nationwide. So very much something that's accessible, and we would like you to apply because if you're a PTA, this is who the money is made for. You end up going to the a secure grant website to apply. And let's look at the next slide before I get too much further into my script. So this is when you're writing a grant, you want to start with thinking about what your school needs. We needed a PTA pantry that provided fun foods for kids that they couldn't necessarily receive at a school lunch or at a food shelf. Next. I mentioned the due date, take note. And I wanted to read you the National PTA mission statement. Why would we apply for a grant? Why would we run these programs? It's to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. So we have some values at Minnesota local and national PTA: collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability. So I'm going to stop the slide share and go through my presentation now. National PTA is offering over $600,000 to 500 PTAs to help conduct programs for families in areas of digital safety, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, healthy lifestyles, the arts, and family engagement. The application period's now open, and by answering just a few questions, your PTA can be eligible for $1,250 or more in program funding to help cover things like food, transportation, translation services to ensure that all families can participate. Remember, I don't know if you've seen those PTA for your child squares, and one of the things they say is every child, one voice. So we're really in this for all children. And good news, you do not need grant writing experience ahead of time to do this project. I'd like to invite you throughout this presentation to put your questions in the chat. Don't hold on to it because you might forget. We definitely want you to write them in the chat, and we will talk about them at the end. And if we need to, we'll email you backup information later. So I want to talk about these different programs that National PTA offers. One is STEM, I mentioned, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So one example would be having an event at your school. We've hired a local museum or organization to have stations for families to go to over the course of a few hours, or on a Sunday or Saturday evening, Saturday or Sunday. So that was a really fun way kids got engaged in science, and PTA was able to advocate for it and like market it, but not run the event. So definitely looking at different partnerships that your PTA can create in order to make these programs happen. Another PTA program opportunity is digital citizenship. And I've seen a PTA invite a presenter from a local police force who had experience helping middle and high school youth stay safe online. She gave a presentation to parents in our local media center, gave handouts, answered questions, and taught strategies to create a family plan around social media, technology, and its benefits, and screen time. Another general category of PTA programming is called healthy lifestyles. So this looks at the whole child, the family, physical health, social, emotional health, like I mentioned, those storybooks that we bought for classroom libraries. There's so many ways to support healthy lifestyles in your school community. So thinking about what your school needs, what's particular to your community. And National PTA has funding available for PTAs to host wellness fairs, provide resources on mental health, and encourage youth to be tobacco-free. So one of the things with healthy lifestyles that our PTA did was run a health fair. We had a bicycle station, free helmets, a bounce house, food, an education station, a sunblock giveaway, that sort of thing. We can do so much when we work together. For example, I'm a local PTA leader who partnered with the school staff and then partners with another school in our neighborhood, for example, and then I was surprised that that school had actually already partnered with a local college of nursing. And so then as a board, PTA board, we decided to also partner with PA Bilingual, which happened, we found this through one of our members' cousins. And that was a language and translation service that helped us out quite a bit. So as part of our partnership with the school, they asked district leaders to help, and we asked district PTA to help too. So each person does a little bit, and then that ends up making a big difference. We had new connections and local partnerships abound. So Bang, do you want to talk a little bit about healthy lifestyles and health fairs?
Yeah, so during the COVID pandemic school years, we were fortunate enough to be awarded and implemented health fairs at our elementary school and also within the community. If I recall correctly, we did 3 total where we, again, had these multiple partnerships. We're able to present education in 3 different languages related to these health fair clinics. We were also able to provide positive reinforcement and kind of items to help kind of make it kid friendly and be able to, you know, distract them during some of the times when they were choosing to, you know, take up some of the healthcare services that were available. One of the benefits too is that because we were doing it within the school district, not only did it help our school community, but also the neighboring community as well. A lot of the folks that were involved or came and utilized these health clinics were some of our neighbors who just came by, and they were really grateful too, because it was an easy walk across the street for them. Some of them were elderly, and they were just grateful that the opportunity was there as well. So we were able to help our own school, but then the community that our school is embedded in as well.
Excellent, thank you. Another type of PTA program that you could work with is arts. So we want to make art as accessible to as many students as possible. So this is not something that you need to create or recreate. It can be from National PTA. They have a program called Reflections, and we have a representative for Reflections at the state level as well, and for some of these other programs too. So we want to make art accessible to students. Maybe they discover an interest in art. Maybe they learn more about art, build confidence. Maybe that increases attendance and success all around. So I listed off a bunch of these programs, and now I want to tell you about how you, as a grant applicant, identify your community's needs, then use resources from National PTA to run a program. And that's the application process, and then running the program happens after the deadline. So the application process is between now and next week, Wednesday, and then after that, you run the program if you get the grant. Well, you can also run a PTA program without receiving the funding, but it helps to have the funding. So I helped run a COVID relief grant that Vang has spoken about, and it was from National PTA at my child's elementary school. And it was our neighborhood school. So one thing I learned throughout the process was partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. We do not do any of this on our own, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel in order to make it a successful event. So to get into the specifics of grant writing, when we go to the website, keep in mind that you are a local unit. Like I'm Oak Grove Elementary PTA. Minnesota has 2 district council PTAs, one in Rochester and one in Duluth. So you'll need to look at another section of grant opportunities specific to PTA councils, and maybe it would be called a region, but we don't have, we only have those 2, one in Rochester and one in Duluth. And we at Minnesota PTA are happy to help you as much as we can throughout your application process. This is not something you have to do all by yourself. On the application website, you will see sections blocked out by color. One's all ages, one's for elementary schools or local units, and then one's for middle or high schools, and then one's just for high schools. The website's fairly clear about which grants are open to which PTAs, but I do want to mention that one grant is not open to PTAs in Minnesota. So don't get excited about the one grant in pink elementary school category called STEM plus Families Science Festival, sponsored by the Bayer Fund. So you might get overwhelmed by the idea of applying for a grant, but no experience is necessary. The people who judge National PTA grants are trained to look at content, not nitpick for grammar or spelling. They are National PTA staff and volunteers, arguably just like us all sitting here tonight. There's no right or wrong way to answer these questions. So please take the leap and start writing. And I don't know that that grant writing process is going to take you very long, but I would recommend getting started sooner rather than later. Write from the heart. How would you use the funding? What are some struggles that your PTA is having? And what PTA programs are you interested in? The process is meant to be learning and fun. So you are invited to apply for more than one grant. Know that you will only be eligible to receive one grant, roughly $1,250. You may apply for the same grant you applied to last time, although the themes change from year to year, as do the donors that National PTA receives money from. I can't quote exactly where the money, well, I think ours came from the National Institute of Health. So there's different donors that support National PTA, and that's how we receive the money. And if we as local unit PTAs don't apply for the national funding, then National PTA can't get the money as much, and then we don't get that support for our local communities. So I'm going to keep going with this presentation, and then we'll look at pictures. So thank you for your patience with no pictures right now. You will, now we're going to see the pictures. Yes, let's do it. So our PTA applied for funding and received it to run health fairs. So this is a photo of me partnering with other volunteers from our PTA, also the school. You'll see, yeah, school staff and volunteers as well as nurses. Next picture. So your funding could also go toward something like this, like a health fair. We provided signage, translation services, food, you can see as part of it. And yes, partnering with translation services and nurses. Next. I really enjoyed the art piece of the creativity bit of this grant process. They actually provided color sheets and then we turned them into bookmarks. And that was one of my favorite parts of the grant, running the grant program. Next. Ooh, you see that lovely giant vaccination balloon? I think that's such a fun way to distract kids and make sure that they're having fun and feeling comfortable even while they're receiving medical services. And note that I did not do that. Like, I partnered with people with Bang and with our PTA board, and the nurses brought these as a fun way to engage the kids. Next. So you see me and Carla with a big sign that says this event sponsored by a PTA. And that was a gift from National PTA. Not to say that you would receive that if you received a grant, but just know that those types of things are provided by PTA and definitely you're supported. The second picture is Vang running a, go back, sorry. Yeah, Vang is running a health education booth here where it's a game and it's teaching about health and the different goals that we had that were also provided by PTA. So we didn't invent the facts or anything. We invented the game, I think. Vang, did you write that game?
No, we it was just an easy like spin the wheel type game, and then we read a fact about health, and a lot of these facts just, you know, again came from the resources that were provided by the National PTA, by the CDC, because it was a health related grant. And so again, we didn't have to really be experts, just we were providing this the information.
Awesome. Yes. Next picture. You'll see we're back to food. We have one of my other colleagues, Laura, who's now on the PTA board as well, helping with food distribution at that event, as well as I brought in my family to help serve as well. Next. So this is my last slide, but I do have more details about grant applications that I'll go over in a second. We have our contacts at MNPTA@mnpta.org. Email that and you will be directed to Amber, who will check to see if you are in good standing as a PTA. And then we also have an email address, programs@pta.org, and that is a representative from National PTA who will answer application questions in more detail than I can. This is the more information is a QR code to pta.org/grants, which I was talking about, I think, where it has different colors and different grants that you can apply for. There aren't too many, and I encourage you to take a look, starting with the age of your PTA, like high school, elementary, or middle school, or the district council. Sweet. So thank you for the slides, and I think we can stop slides sharing so that I can tell you a little bit more information and put some things in the chat. So when you click apply for a grant, you will need to create a like a login on the National PTA website, and that will help. You will end up working with a grant portal called Open Water. So just so you're aware, that's how things get relayed securely back and forth. I want to mention this frequently asked questions page I'm putting in the chat. I think you will find it very helpful, and it's not too long either. So one person will start the application process, and once they're done writing or creating a video, they will be the one to upload and submit the grant application. However, this is new this year. Another PTA member may also be invited to work on the grant application. Yay for teamwork. Fang and I definitely started working on this together after we had received the grant. And I think it would have been nice if we could have written it together as well. On the actual site, we definitely collaborated on it before we hit submit. You may take your time with the application, save it and come back, or save and finalize. Save and finalize is the last step before the application is off your plate for good. You can't edit it after you've submitted it. I took a look at this scoring guide. I'm putting it in the chat. It's not very long. It's like 4 points that they score you on, and I recommend looking specifically at the grant that you're applying for and relating that to the needs of your individual school, and speak from the heart again on this. And don't worry if you need the scoring guide in Spanish, they have that as well. And note that there's a 250 word limit per question. And for accessibility, you may submit a video submission that's about 2 minutes long. It's not required to do a video submission. That's new this year, but they do want to make it more accessible. Also, you can submit your application in a language other than English. Spanish or Somali would be helpful languages in our community, I'm sure. I'm not sure about your specific school, but you're welcome to submit an application in another language. The next part that I'm putting in the chat is a link to a 15-minute meeting to work on your grant application with a National PTA staff person. So let's say you have a concern, or have a specific question, or you don't know where to start. They can walk through with you specifically to your school and help you with that application process. So overall, we are here to help you from beginning to end, and so is National PTA. So you will be applying for a grant through National PTA, and Minnesota PTA is also available to help. So let's say you finish your application. Congratulations. You will receive a notification sent out via email as to whether or not you received the grant. And let's say you received the grant. Now, congratulations. And now what? So I know that National PTA is very supportive, and we had community of practice calls monthly where we connected with other PTA leaders, a National PTA staff person, and we're able to share ideas. And I was able to ask questions and get answers, and also share some of the cool bookmarks we made and things like that that were our strengths as a board. So to show that you have fulfilled the National PTA grant program, so you need to run a National PTA program, and that's what the grant money is funding. And so at the end, in order to have those checks and balances, you're required to fill out a feedback form. Also along the way, they request photos and videos, quotes from members and the community. That's a great way to make sure that we're having the checks and balances, but also that we can share the great work that we've done. Like you saw some of the photos of Vang and I 2 years ago now. National PTA provides resources, education all along the way. You are the ones who are adding value to your school community. So you may want to share it and show it off. So you're amazing, busy, dedicated PTA leaders, and I thank you so much for your time. And I'm wondering if we have any questions. And I actually,
if anybody would like to either speak or put them in the chat, either question method is welcome.
Yes, I have one too. Do you want to go, Allie? Hold on, you have to unmute. There you go.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Sorry. You can finish if you need to, and then I can ask my question.
No, I just have a seated question from the audience before. So you're welcome to go.
Oh, okay. Well, leave it to me to be unusual. So I come to you actually from two different PTAs. I'm the president of a elementary school PTA, who's been very well established. I think Christine was the president many years ago, Gibbs Elementary. And our PTA is getting stronger by the day. We have a lot of events that we already run every year. But when I saw the email come through, I actually thought about the middle school that I also help with as much as I can, being part of two PTAs. Our middle school is brand new. This is the second full year that they have been open. So our PTA is really struggling, both with membership ideas, any type of involvement. We're kind of missing like that sense of community for our school. And I think that that takes time to build. But I guess my question was your thoughts on, for a brand new PTA, we don't have much of a budget to begin with. We're working on that, obviously, but the idea of planning something like these health fairs or, the STEM fair, it sounds great, but it also sounds daunting because even if you have the funding, it would take quite a bit of resources as far as manpower to get something like that going. So I just wondered how you guys would see a brand new PTA potentially utilizing this grant money that's available, and sort of what course you would recommend for me to take to best support our middle school.
Thank you for asking a specific question. I love it. And I know that earlier this afternoon, Vang spoke to how our PTA did it. We were in a little bit of dire straits when we needed to run this program. So I'm going to turn it over to her just to speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. And I think to highlight, I just have to kind of explain our situation as well. Like there was 4 of us on the board, 3 of us were new, and this grant application had been approved by the prior board president had applied for and was awarded this grant. So we were the ones coming in as new board members who ended up implementing this grant. No experience, none of us had worked. This was our very first time working on the PTA board of the elementary school. There was only one other PTA board member who was previously on the board before, but had never worked with the national PTA as well. So none of us had the experience, but we kind of fell into it. I would really highlight that, there was a lot of guidance and a lot of resources. The template, for application was very clear cut as well. And doing it the first time, kind of going through it the first time kind of helped propel us and give us the tools to reapply, because for the special time, again, we were awarded it during the pandemic school years. We had the opportunity to reapply for additional grants during those years. And because we had already done the first application, then it really helped us. We used the same template, some of the same things that we talked about in the first application, we kind of rolled over into the next application, just kind of highlighted more things. The other thing I want to highlight too is that our school PTA, again, very small board, very small PTA. Like if they're at our monthly meetings, if we had maybe 8 or 10 people, that was a very large meeting. Usually it was the principal, the board, maybe a teacher, and then a couple of parents. We had lots of other barriers too. We were busy parents. Somebody like had a new job during the time. Somebody was pregnant during the time. Somebody my family had bought a house and moved during that time when we did all of that. It was very daunting, but like Maria said, this is all just to highlight that it is doable, despite the fact that it feels daunting. it is doable because there's so much guidance. And once we got into it, then it just kind of felt like we got into a groove. And I will say towards the end, especially when we were back in school, Maria and I ended up working mostly on the grant implementation. And the other two board members ended up doing most of the other kind of typical school things like the book fair and the carnival and that sort of thing. So really it was just the two of us at that point in time. So it is, you know, like the money is there, it is doable, you are capable and you are already leaders. And I would really, really encourage you to go ahead and do it. The one other thing that I shared earlier today too is that the skills that we learned from doing this helped us to help facilitate our school getting another grant, you know, outside of National PTA. It was actually a grant for children's mental health through Hennepin County. And we helped the school social worker and the school psychologist get a grant, win and award a grant as well. So the school actually ended up getting a lot of money through the county for like mental health kits, for you know, books related to social emotional topics. And I think because we had this experience, we felt like we were in that mindset, like we could do it, we could help others in the school community. So it was actually a really eye-opening and great experience overall.
I just want to add too, Allie, that there's a whole grant application process that's maybe 1 or 2 pages. You're going to spend a week on it, but then you would spend all year running that program. And throughout that year, National PTA is going to have those community of practice phone calls. And I didn't know who I was going to ask straight away for helping us host these clinics. I had no idea as a parent who's not a nurse. And yet, because I was on those calls, I was like, oh, I do remember my child really liking early childhood family education. I can probably partner with them. And then it turned out that they had a health clinic in that school. And so that's how it just started rolling. And like I mentioned earlier, one of our members' cousins was a translator. I was like, what? That's so perfect. And we ended up hiring that company. So it's not like you need to know all of those things right now. You just need to know that you have a few people on your board who are committed to putting forth the effort throughout this upcoming school year. And $1,250 is going to be spent more quickly than what Vang and I showed you the pictures of. We had more money than that. So know that you would be doing a part of what we've showed you.
Okay, thank you.
And
So my
Allie, if you ever want to get in touch with me, I'm at the area council too.
Okay,
So
thank you.
if you email the RAC PTSA secretary at gmail.com, I can help get you connected and give you some tips and tricks on how to get, you know, some help with the middle school as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And as you're checking the National PTA website, there are grants specific to middle schools. So that help guide you to figure out what your needs are. And I like that idea of like we weren't large, and doing this grant process really helped solidify our PTA's strength in finances in a time when we didn't know how long we'd be able to maintain membership. So I encourage you to apply.
All right, I'll see what I can do in a week.
No, you just apply in a week. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, I know. Just get Eric on it.
I tried to get him on this meeting and he didn't reply. So we actually, due to weather, had some cancellations of activities tonight. So I had our Gibbs PTA meeting earlier and I thought, I'm just going to pop on and see what it's about. So, okay.
Yeah. And I was the only one on those community of practice calls, and I would just relay the highlights to Vang, and you would move forward as a board.
Yeah.
So speaking of questions, I have one seated from the audience. Can anyone apply for a National PTA grant? The answer is you have to be a PTA member. And there are expectations that once you apply, that you will fulfill the grant requirements. You're going to need things like a EIN number, and it might change your gross income for the year, which would change your filings for taxes. I'm just giving you some details about how we really worked together. Bang was our treasurer at the time to make sure that the details of this grant worked for us. So we had a process of board approval. And in my case, I had to be the president in order to apply. I don't know that that's the case anymore, but it would make sense to make sure that the board is on board with your grant writing and it has board approval. Well, you've been a great audience, and this has been a fun opportunity to tell you a little bit more about grant writing for National PTA and running a National PTA program. And I wish you the best. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can end the meeting, and I look forward to hearing from any of you or having any of you check in with Amber about your good standing and applying. Have a great evening.